be making their talks, discussions, and contributions. The contributions are placed through presentations, talks, sessions, panel discussions, chairing different technical sessions, rapporteur, etc. My heartfelt thanks to the guest speakers of the inaugural session. Dr. Athula, Professor of Information Technology, Western Sydney University, Australia. He has spoken about data to fund. He has also discussed Vidya technology platform which has been implemented in Maharashtra, India. Our gratitude and heartfelt thanks to Professor Moni Madhuswamy, former Director General, National Informatics Center, New Delhi, who has spoken that we all need to get into agriculture through technology. We should move now from green, G-R-E-E-N, to G-R-I-N, green revolution, that is genetics, robotics, informatics, and nanotechnology. Thank you, sir, for your focus, shifting all our focus to all this green technology. Our heartfelt thanks to Dr. Avari Mohan, Professor, Innovative and Strategy, Deputy Head of School Engagement and Impact, Monash University, Malaysia Campus, School of Business. His address gave us an insight on innovation, particularly reflexive innovation, the need of the hour. Thank you so much, sir. We would like to thank our collaborator, Operational Research Society of India, Bhubaneswar chapter, for their full support given by the Secretary, Dr. R.N. Subudhi sir, and all the members who are present here physically and who have supported us otherwise. We are very much thankful and grateful to our Vice Chancellor, Madam Dr. Supriya Patnaik, for support and guidance throughout. We are very thankful to our President, sir, Professor Dr. Muktikanta Mishra, and our Vice President, Professor D.N. Rao, who has worked out all the keynote speakers and panelists and sponsors. They are not here physically, but they have done all that could have made this more successful. We are thankful to the conveners, committee members, organizing members, faculty, staff, student of School of Management for all the efforts that you see has made this happen. There are many more members who are to be praised for all the efforts that they have put. The campus administrators, the hospitality team, all the support staffs, deans, faculty across schools, CSR team, MRC team, all the staff members across campuses. We have got a good support from the staff members of other campuses of Centurion University, Odisha. We are thankful to Mr. Sushil for timely printing out the abstract book for us. We are thankful that we are very privileged and happy that our papers, selected papers, are going to be published in Taylor and Francis. So thank you for that, for the collaboration and MOU that we could do with Taylor and Francis. We are thankful to news persons and media persons. Special mention and thanks to our sponsors, Paradeep Phosphates Limited, Clarivate Analytics, Shah Book House Private Limited, Tactile Software and Solutions Private Limited, Bhubaneswar, Jai Padmashri Enterprises, Jaipur, Yuva Bharat Foundation, Pune. With all their support and support from Centurion University, we are able to have this discussions for next 2 days. And I am thankful to, of course, the panel members who are going to be the next event that we are going to have. Paper presenters, as said, there are 9 technical sessions for the different 6 tracks that we have advertised and done. And the session chairs, co-chairs, rapporteurs for those sessions, the students who will be presenting, there's a separate student track, and Faculty of Extension, Faculty of Management, and all other schools. Thank you so much, and we hope that we will have a great learning experience for the next 2 days. Have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for your heartfelt vote of thanks. Your words of appreciation and acknowledgement have beautifully concluded the inaugural ceremony, and with this, we come to the formal closure of today's inaugural ceremony. Thank you, everyone. Now, I would request Dr. Shubhashree Nag, the Senior Business Solution Consultant, Research and Analytics of South APAC, Clarivet, to take the virtual session on the topic Accelerating India's Growth Through Meaningful and Impactful Publications. I hope this would be a learning experience for each one of us. Madam, please confirm whether I am audible to you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Yeah, just give me a moment to share my screen.
Yes.
So I believe you can see my screen, all of you.
Yes.
So first of all, congratulations to the entire team of Centurion University and Dr. Anita Patra for a very successful inaugural session of the Viksit Bharat International Conference 2024. We at Clarivate are very honored to be a part of this conference. I am sorry that I could not make it in person because of the inclement weather here in Mumbai, which has resulted in the cancellation of many flights, and travel is extremely difficult today. My session is going to talk about accelerating India's growth through meaningful and impactful publications, a small profile of mine. Before I start talking about our company and about the database that a lot of you subscribe and how it can help you in high impact publication, let me talk a little bit about, Viksit Bharat. I looked up the UGC website. I looked up several government documents, and one of the things, the aims of Viksit Bharat is to promote innovation and research. We have had some very, very interesting conversations and talks from academic and industry stalwarts about innovation. Now, one of the offshoots of good research is the fact that you're able to disseminate your research into publications which are well regarded by the scientific and academic community, right? And I hope many of you, are aware that there exists a huge problem today in the Indian research ecosystem, which is centered around research integrity, ethics, and publishing. For example, the number of predatory journals that emanate from India is one of the highest in the world. Though we are one of the biggest, producers of scientific and academic content in terms of publications, our impact in terms of citations is much lower. It is much lower than smaller countries like France, Spain in the European Union. So we do have a lot of potential. We are doing great work, but we need to now go to the next level whereby we are producing research and we are disseminating the research in journals which are noticed, which are read by the scientific and academic experts around the world. Create a citation footprint of our work which is global and which is highly impactful. And I will just take this 10 minutes to quickly talk about how does Clarivate help you in this. Now, Clarivate is a global information, analytics company. Several, more than 45,000 customers work with us, which includes some of the world's top universities, top pharmaceutical companies, top innovators. They all use products and solutions from Clarivate. Now, let us talk a little bit about what the government is doing between for achieving the purpose of Viksit Bharat or a developed India. You know, there has been a huge influx of funds in different scientific and research areas. So some of the things that I have noted down over here are the Deep Ocean Mission, the National Hydrogen Mission. I Many of you might not be aware that our flagship product, Web of Science, now has unified funding agency data that can help you, map these initiatives to the funds that are being offered by national funding agencies. Why is that very important for research scholars like you to know? Because this can help you write the right grant proposals and get the right amount of funding. So next time you use a Clarivate product like Web of Science for your literature search, do also look when you're doing the literature search about who is the agency who is funding work in that area. Clarivate and ProQuest, we together provide you research analytics, workflow software, we provide you content. Now, again, to come back to the idea of Viksit Bharat and what we've needed to be impactful in this quickly changing global research landscape. Remember, we can be Viksit Bharat or a developed India when our benchmarks are on par with some of the top global research producing countries of the world. Now, you need, as an institution, how do you sustain high quality research, teaching, and learning? You need to quickly find relevant papers and understand where to publish, determine the right collaborators, and submit more competitive funding applications. Web of Science co-collection. Remember, the next time you do your literature search, do use the Web of Science co-collection, which has more than 22,000 journals in its collection, with more than 304,000 conferences in the Conference Proceeding Citation Index. It is very probable that conference proceedings from this particular conference, because you have partnered with Taylor and Francis, they will also probably make their way into Web of Science. Now, I just want to use this later part of the conversation to talk about how do we select the right journal. Now, Web of Science can be a great tool for identifying the right journal in which you should be publishing. Before you start, on deciding the right journal for your manuscript, please speak to colleagues, supervisors, search for call for papers, but some of the small checklists that you must keep in mind is familiarize yourself with journal content. Web of Science can be very helpful. So if, let's say, you have a journal in mind, Journal X, look into the last 2 years of content and try to see if there are themes appearing multiple times in that particular journal. Remember, editors will look to get similar topics which have performed well in the past. Or understand your journal audience. Your journal audience, if it is very niche, if they work on, or most of the publications in that journal are on very specific topics, that means it is appealing to a niche audience. Decide who is your target audience. Is the scope of your work more multidisciplinary, more broad, or do you want to appeal to a very specific subset? A great way to know whether a journal is going to be performing strongly in the coming years is to review journal affiliations and the editorial board. A journal is as good as its editorial board, so I strongly suggest to have a look at who are the editor on the editorial board of the journal, and also get to know journal policies and processes. Does the journal allow you copyright access on your papers? If it's open access, who retains the copyright? Check which article formats are accepted. Does it accept primarily reviews? If so, then an original research article is not the great fit for the journal. Understand your publishing options. There are some journals which even though they are a hybrid model, they push you to, pay an article processing charge. You might not have the budget or the funds for it. So do you really want to go for and look about journal metrics? The impact factor even today is a gold standard of metric. So as we have already covered this, understand the scope, very important. Not only does a journal statement talk and give you more information about the journal scope, the table of contents of the journal is also very important, to see what kind of publications, what kind of material has been used, what kind of methods those papers talk about. Are they talking about sophisticated statistical techniques executed by software? If so, have you done that kind of work? Make sure your manuscript is a good fit so that you don't get desk rejection or your paper gets, the rabbit hole of, in review, but not getting back any answer post that. Look at the publisher reputation, very, very important. If you see that in the past few years, there have been multiple retractions, problems with the journal editors, be wary of publishing in these journals. This journal might get de-indexed. Remember, Web of Science, which is one of the standard journal indexing databases, is very rigorous in its curation. So if there are these problems with a journal might get de-indexed. Now, how do we select a journal? We have 24 quality and 4 impact criteria. All of this ensures that we do not index predatory and low quality journals. So, and this journal selection process happens on a yearly basis. So if these problems I talked about are detected, a journal might get de-indexed, the journal loses its impact factor, and that could be a problem in your resume because most grant agencies, most government bodies, they do ask you whether you are publishing in Social Science Citation Index or SCIE index journals. Now, one thing that a lot of people are confused about is impact factor. How do I say, there are statements like that I have published only in journals above impact factor so and so. What does that mean? Does a certain threshold work for every subject? That is not true. I just cannot arbitrarily say that an impact factor of 3.45 is good. It depends upon the citation behavior of other publications in the journals appearing in that particular Web of Science subject category. Now, there are 3 scenarios for publication strategy. You could have a high standard approach where you publish in the top 25% of journals, which are the Q1 journals. You could have a median where you're publishing in Q3, Q2. Remember, if you're publishing in Q1 journals, that's the very important, most difficult to publish over there. Or you could decide to be more conservative and publish in Q4 journals. All journals on the Web of Science core collection get a journal impact factor. So you can see how different the impact factors are across subjects. For mathematics, the median impact factor is 0.746, whereas for oncology, it is 3. So that means 50% of journals in mathematics have an impact factor below 0.7. So impact factor is highly dependent on subject, and I cannot come with a generalized rule that a certain impact factor indicates quality. Also, please rely on information available on JCR, the Journal Citation Reports, or Web of Science for impact factor information. There are several misleading named indicators. I have listed some of them. Now, these are not the journal impact factor utilized by regulatory or ranking agencies. Your journal needs to be indexed on Web of Science in order to receive an impact factor. Finally, the key takeaway for researchers are as such: select the most appropriate influential journals to publish research yes, but use appropriate metrics and also understand geographic and institutional contribution of a journal to understand the national or international range of authors, view and graph key indicator metrics, use an open access filter to identify open access journals, view citation towards your journal impact factors to understand whether this article would be of interest to the editor or not. And finally, some new additions to the Web of Science. We have the preprint index, which gives you a lot of information about breakthrough science and research. To next time you log on to Web of Science, do look into the preprint index, look into the Research Horizon Navigator, and the ProQuest dissertations and thesis, which are all available and a part of Web of Science. The ProQuest dissertations and thesis also accepts electronic dissertations into the database. Participation is free and easy. There is no commercial obligation. So I hope a lot of the stakeholders from universities who are attending this seminar would be interested in depositing their dissertations onto this platform. And finally, we'll talk about ProQuest One Academic. This is a sister platform from the Web of Science research, team, where we host ebooks, we host journals. All of this will increase the amount of content that you are able to view for your literature search. On Web of Science, remember 1 in 3 articles is freely available full text.
Hello, Subhash.
With this, I would like to end my, conversation, and I hope we have provided you a new perspective on the Web of Science offerings and how do you publish in impactful journals, and hopefully research output which is indicative of the actual progress of India, which is impactful, which is cited by global experts, which is read by global experts, which is just not quantity but also quality, will really fulfill our dream of a developed Viksit Bharat. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. We would have loved to have you here in person, but thank you so much for delivering such an impactful session. Now, we will be moving forward to the most awaited panel discussion. We have a panel of experts with us to share their insights and experiences. And to lead the discussion, it is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panel chair, Ms. Ava Mishra. With a career spanning over 30 years, she has worked extensively in the management and implementation of national and community level development projects, as well as advocacy and action-based research. Her expertise includes disaster risk reduction, resilience, livelihood, housing, and women's empowerment. Now let us give a warm welcome to our panel chair. Thank you, madam. I would now like to request the panel members who are present with us virtually, Mr. Bobby Varanasi and Professor Abu Saleh. First, let me introduce to you Mr. Bobby Varanasi, Chief Consultant at Metronel Malaysia. Mr. Varanasi is a highly respected leader in the global sourcing industry with deep expertise in strategy, governance, advisory services for both private and public sector organizations. Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
I hope you
Thank you,
hear
sir.
me.
Next, we have with us Professor Abu Saleh. Dr. Abu Saleh is an Associate Professor of Marketing at the University of Canberra, Australia. His academic career is highly accomplished with numerous accolades, over 78 national and international publications, and leadership roles in academic research. Sir, we are delighted to have your virtual presence.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next panel member is physically present with us. She is none other than Ms. Rebecca Crawley. Ms. Crawley is the Education, Employment and Training Manager at Tamur Youth Indigenous Corporation in Australia. Her passion for First Nations culture and her belief in learning and sharing has driven her work. I take the opportunity to invite her on dais. Please give her a huge round of applause.
Hello.
Thank you, madam. Next, it's my pleasure to call on stage Mr. Venkat Sivanand, the Managing Director of GTDIS Private Limited, India. Mr. Sivanand has a wealth of experience in microfinance, retail banking, and innovative projects involving fintech and drones. Thank you, sir. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Basant Mohanty to the stage. With over 4 decades of experience, Mr. Mohanty has made significant contributions to the development of vulnerable communities. His leadership roles in renowned humanitarian agencies and his expertise in various sectors, including microfinance, tribal rights, and disaster risk management, are truly inspiring. Welcome, Mr. Mohanty. Now, it gives me great pleasure to invite Professor Santosh Kumar Das to the stage. Professor Das is a visionary leader in the field of organic agriculture, particularly in the promotion of medicinal and aromatic plants. His work has empowered thousands of farmers and created a sustainable livelihood for many. He is member of the National Medicinal Plants Board under the Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. We are honored to have him here today. Thank you for joining us. We are set for an engaging discussion. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to our esteemed panel members and panel chair. With this, I hand over the session to the panel chair, Ms. Ava Mishra. Madam, it is over to you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Namaskar to one and all. Respected panelists on the dais, off the dais, guests from India and abroad, paper presenters, faculty members of the CUTM, and students. I think students, it's very important for you all to actually listen and be a part of the conversations, because sustainable development will not happen without you. And sustainable development is also very, very important, keeping in mind what is happening today. But even before we discuss it through the panel, we need to ask ourselves, has the world with its many civilizations survived despite being unsustainable in our pursuit for development? The answer is resounding no. Our ancestors understood what environment is and its linkages to human survival. So before this today's modern world actually talks about sustainable development for Viksit Bharat, it is all important for all of us to also understand what sustainable development is. We have progressed a lot, and I'm sure the SDG goals, a lot of SDG goals indicate where we are moving. For this particular panel, where we have Mr. Bobby, Bobby Varanasi from the Regenerative Futures, Mr. Rebecca, who has done a lot of work on youth and indigenous people, Mr. Abul Salam from Australia, Venkat Srivanandan, Basant Mahanti, sir, who has worked in the development sectors on so many issues that I'm sure he will give us an insight. What we are doing as the whole panel, each panel member would look at his interest area and link it to all the 17 or to the maximum SDG goals he or she can, to tell us what are the 3 or 4 key points which needs to be taken care of if we are talking about Viksit Bharat. And each panel member would have about 7 to 8 minutes to either present or talk about it. May I call upon Mr. Bobby Varanasi to please start his presentation? I think we don't have your voice as of now.
I'm just sharing it. Just
Yes,
in a moment.
please. So I would request we stick to the time for 7
Yep.
to 8 minutes. Thank you,
Absolutely,
sir.
we'll do that.
Thank you.
Just give me a moment, madam. I'm just trying to get the system ready. For some reason, it's not. Sorry, give me a moment. Are you able to see my screen? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful. So I'll just spend 4 or 5 minutes. Thank you very much for having me here. I will take your view on not all the 17 goals, obviously for paucity of time, but I would like to focus my attention on 2 of them, especially it is Goal 8 and Goal 13, which focuses on good jobs and economic growth, and the second, of course, is on responsible consumption and production. I think it's very important to appreciate that while we talk about all these lofty goals, what exactly is the implementation realities and what is the world we are living in. What we have at the current moment, and I will not bore you with this, is this entire 9 planetary boundaries that we have. 6 have already been breached. So any action of ours in the name of development, progress, inclusion, diversity, whatever it is important for us not to get pigeonholed into those endeavors that are mostly and broadly economic, but we tend to lose sight of the larger long-term implications. And that is our starting point, and that would be the end point as well, is whatever we do as institutions, as individuals, as enterprises, is are we enabling the planet or are we destroying it? And while this is happening, what we're also seeing is obviously we have all these goals, we understand what they are, but how do they manifest in reality? This is the reality of the amount of complexity that is exponentially increasing. No longer do we have linear relationships that could have been easily managed. So we are seeing a significant amount of non-linearity creeping in, and one does have an implication on a multiple range of others.
Dear
And
Bobby,
sorry?
am I audible?
Yeah.
Subudhi sir,
Can you hear me?
Bobby, am I audible? Can you switch
Yes.
on your video? Subudhi,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Subudhi sir here.
Yes, sir.
Please switch on your video.
Video is switched on.
No, you don't like us.
Sorry, 1 minute. No, video is on. Video is on, and you're able to see my screen, right?
We can't see you.
Okay. Shall I continue?
No. Okay, never mind. Continue.
Okay, thank you. So in the context of all this exponential complexity, what we tend to look at it as, all of us as individual institutions do not always look at it as our accountability, but it is usually left to governments or multilateral institutions to look at it. And I believe that the reason for half the complexity that is prevalent in the world today is because many of us, and I'm not picking on any single individual, we tend to be on the bystander side and not the creator side of the equation. So the long-tail consequences of our actions or inaction tend to have disastrous implications going multi-generational. And more often than not, these conversations do not come into play because we are so busy trying to create the next big unicorn, or trying to add in another 1 million jobs, etc. But we forget that the responsibility of the sustainability and resilience are as important as the creation in the first place. So what does that look like? I'll skip this slide, but I'll get you a slide copy so you can always review it in detail. We are also having to contend with something extremely crucial right now, more often than not, and I would like to think that in the context of India, it is much, much more insidious, is the ability of creating jobs consistently for a growing population of 1.4 billion people, and the penchant in the private sector to maximize profits and therefore start leveraging a range of technologies. So there is a significant amount of replacement happening with respect to jobs. While jobs are created, they're not going to humans. So what is the balance that any organization, whether even if it is a municipal corporation or if it is a city council, how are they going to look at it? Are they going to go after modernity for all the greatness and glory that they offer? Or are we going to get a little bit more sanguine and ensure that the human remains in control? In these contexts, so what are some of the things that I would recommend that we should be doing? And I'm taking an enterprise and an ecosystem view, not necessarily a research or an academic view, and I'm sure you'll appreciate I work on the policy side as well as on implementation aspects with corporations and cross-border trade. At the end of the day, for all the projections that we have into the future, more often than not, they are almost always overridden by the need for maximizing profitability and balance sheet growth. So in that context, I would like to recommend a couple of things that we should be doing completely differently. First and foremost is to understand what is a sustainable organization. It is not necessarily about doing things slightly more responsibly, doing the same things, a little more responsibility, and then putting in, an SDG 2, an SDG 3, and SDG 4 in this slide and saying, therefore, I'm responsible. And I have seen way too many of these, what you would call them as motherhood hogwash statements, but they do not pan out in reality. It's extremely important to completely rebalance, recalibrate all our models. And there are a couple of recommendations here, and we see these being adopted more aggressively by organizations in certain parts of the world. The second question you want to ask is, what enterprises are you building? Are you building the traditional ones where it is very transactionally heavy and it is all about streamlining, standardizing, but it does not necessarily focus beyond the balance sheet? Or are you really focusing on growth and resilience? And any organization that is sitting as a traditional model is completely going to be dead. And unfortunately, it might not even create value, even if you were to do marginal improvements to some of the functions out there. Third thing is you want to understand what exactly is value to an organization. It is a very funny concept. If you ask anybody anywhere in the world, what do you mean by value? They will talk about bottom line. They will talk about top line. They'll talk about customer satisfaction. But the one thing that you all should be asking is look at the line in red. Does the marketplace need your product or a service in the first place? Why are we creating 50,000 different, gaming companies? Why are we creating 55,000 shoe companies? But why do we create all of these? Are we creating any of these, solutions and services to actually create significant improvements to the human, endeavor, or is it just about marginal efficiencies? These are big questions that if we do not ask these questions and modulate our thinking, and that thinking has to go to the startup industry, to the banks, to the financial institutions, to the policymakers, right, and to anyone else who is enabling investments, either FDI or domestic investments. If you are not asking this question, you are just doing the same thing of predatory capitalism over and over again. And I think it is time that we switch away from being balance sheet heavy to value heavy. The third thing is we live in a world of data, but how do we use the data? I will not bore you to death with the ecosystem components and the complexities, the lack of policies and law to support endeavors. The big question is that data is a significant component of your industry, of your company, of your ecosystem. So its responsible utility is extremely crucial. The fourth thing you want to look at is, where do you fit in, you or I as individuals? Do we disassociate ourselves from our professional endeavors, or do we, embed our own morals and ethics and guidance and culture into an organization? You look at any enterprise in India or in Southeast Asia, you will find that the moral principles of an individual are outside of the office. They are governed by a certain set of principles that are very, very limited to the organization And when they step out of the organization into their own social lives, there is a complete different set of moral principles. And we unfortunately are dealing with these two parallels that need to be eliminated. And unless we do that, all the conversations that I keep seeing about sustainable development are going to be nothing more than
Last 1 minute, please.
good,
Thank
yeah,
you.
good conference conversations, right? The last piece I wanted to, I'll skip this, is please bring ethics as a component of your conversation and ensure that it's important to understand what exactly are ethics and morality, right? These are a binary. Please do not establish ethics and guidelines and morality guidelines on a spectrum of good to bad. You either have it or you don't have it. So if these are not the fabric of an organization and institution, then all the good that you're trying to accomplish fizzles away. So as the last piece, what I wanted us to do is to think through that sustainability is not an end goal. For the last 100 years, what we have done is to build for technical systems. But we need to start building for human systems. And what it means is we need to start conversing about restoration and regeneration and not just sustainability. And in that context, I'm sure you'll appreciate, ladies and gentlemen, that the SDGs have been considered to be, unfortunately, a significant failure. And I will not bore you with what are the details, but you can always see right here that SDG is not an end goal. It is just a starting point to something far more useful, resilient, and keeps cohesion and harmony with all the living systems in the marketplace. Well, I will stop my presentation here. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bobby. I think you have really brought in one of the major concerns which is required when we look at sustainable development is that we are building this world for people. And every development which is there needs to be people-centric. And so what we really need is looking at from a living systems design rather than a technology system design. Thank you so much for your valuable inputs.
Thank you.
May I now request Rebecca, if you're ready, or okay. So we would invite Professor Abul Salah from Australia to speak before Rebecca. Rebecca is just getting ready. No problems. Can we have Professor Abul Salah? Can
you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir. You could share your presentation, or if you just want to go verbatim, that's also okay.
Yeah. Thanks very much for inviting me to join this session. I would like to thank the session chair. Also would like to thank Professor Robbie, who is always aligning me with this type of exposure and gathering. And in this, I don't have any slides, but I'll talk from my head. And I think this is a good call. And I have been actually doing research in internationalization process and international marketing, international exporter and importer behavior. Recently, I have changed my mind and I am moving forward to actually looking for something, the sustainable development. This conference is very much aligned with my current research. And currently, I am actually exploring some research work with the circular economy and sustainable development. So, which gives me a bit, I think, room to describe my two projects over here. I don't have that much time. I think I have only a few minutes, 5 or 6 minutes. I'm not sure how can I go, but I'll try my best to compile my thinking process over here. So the current research in my table actually integrates the term circular economy and sustainability. These are the increasingly tremendous topic and getting attention from the academia, industry, practitioners and policymakers. And integrated empirical investigations also largely been neglected in the area. And it seems that it is a disregarded stream from two critical, merely frauded assumptions. Like on the first perspective, is the circular economy is the driving force behind internationalization or international exporting firms' sustainable performance. And the second is that the exporting manufacturing firms follow the non-new classical paradigm, where a circular economy implies a shift from the classical linear to circular economic approach. So drawing this stream of research, the extent knowledge, academic knowledge shows that the integration of these concepts is vital, especially the circular economy and sustainable development or sustainability distinctively shows that these two are very much supplementary, and it's very immense need at this point of time to go back and forth. We know the world economy is actually moving forward, and is very much the energy looping and materials and energy looping time. And at this point of time, the researchers also looking around how we can actually move forward with the back and forth procedure. And based on that, the circular economy concepts actually aligning the long-lasting design, maintenance, repair, reuse, manufacturing, and refurbishing, and recycling the productions and reproducing the things to actually contribute to the development of the nations. So that is the way it also enhances the sustainable capabilities of the farms. In that way, the term sustainability has been elaborated in many dimensions, broadly from the environmental, social, and sustainable economic development grounds. And this term originates in the like France, bar, like to hold up or support. The modern definition of sustainability is being able to be maintained at a certain rate or level. We summarize the concept as the balanced integration of economic performance, social inclusiveness, and environmental resilience to benefit current and future generations. The current knowledge of shows that, and it is revealed, the multifaceted potential circular economy and sustainable factors, and their common and uncommon integrations and conceptualizations. Varieties of theories also underpins with these concepts, such as triple bottom line theory, resource-based theory of the farm, internationalization process, and eco-energy theory. Aligning this theoretical argument, the literature shows that there is a huge gap and misunderstanding or gaps of understanding, lacks of understanding to get the insight into the circular economy and sustainable phenomena. So the current understanding also reveal that the circular economy is relevant micro and meso level factors that have been the potential, that branding image and competitive edge may play a mediating role between the circular economy and also sustainable elements such as environmental, social, economic performance in an export manufacturing industry settings. Both circular economy and sustainable concepts are global and shared concerns with the state of technology, production, consumption that might be the source of unexplored branding image and competitive edge. So these are the things I would like to explore at this point of time. In addition, I also actually looking for further research project in terms of the organizational capabilities, competitive competencies, shared visions that enhances circular economy transitions in multinational agencies and supplier relationships. So in that case, we'll be bridging the argument between the organizational capabilities, competitive competencies, and shared visions with the multinational MNCs performance or the relationship performance or relationship outcome with the transition of circular economy. These are the things very much actually lack of understanding at this point of time, but the organizational dynamics are especially specifically significant in the apparel industry. And it is not that the specific country is specific concern, but it is a global concern at this point of time. That's why um, the research has huge gaps in understanding, and there is an urgency of the adoption of circular economy as a key strategy in combining climate change, further highlighting the importance of the organizational factors in this transition. So my research wants to actually bridge this thing and try to show the mediating and moderating effect of the circular economy transitions between the organizational capabilities, competitive competencies, shared visions, and multinational agencies and supplier relationships.
Right. Thank you so
I think
much.
these are,
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
Final
Yeah.
word, please.
So finally, I would like to actually just make a concluding note that though it is a dual focus on the theory and practice, my research only would like to advance the academic understanding, but also the practical understanding, which will provide actionable guidance and guidelines for practitioners navigating the complexities of circular economy implementations within the supply chain management process. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my research.
Thank you so much, Abul sir. I think it's a very, very important point when you look at the SDG 13, which talks about production and consumption. It has a direct linkage to most of the, the SDG goals. And the other point which you really made was about the partnerships, the SDG goal 17. It also really requires, participation of all the members of the value chain. And the capacities for each of them is also very varied, and it also needs to be augmented when we are talking about circularity. Circularity is not just about reusing or reduce, but it is also about reducing a lot of the waste which was talked about by Bobby also. Thank you so very much for bringing these excellent points. May I now request Basant Bhai to talk about how we as a community can be more, please, people-centric in our approach in achieving SDGs. And also in, tribals have always been sustainable. The rural communities has also been very sustainable, but somewhere we've lost the way. So how do we do it to ensure to get the Viksit Bharat? Over to you, sir.
Dear young friends, few of you present in the hall, dignitaries, my co-panelists. Before getting into the subject, I just felt I should remind you all, today is World Environment Health Day. And for this, in the words of the late Nobel Prize winner, Professor Wangi Maathai of Africa, Mother Nature is very generous but very unforgiving. If you destroy nature, nature will wipe out you. That is in her words. Now, I will be touching upon the Viksit Bharat strategies using a governance lens. Viksit Bharat, India aims to achieve 5 trillion economy by 2047, giving focus to large scale macro infrastructure and also focusing the micro infrastructures. Then, as youth are the future upkeepers of the Vikasit Bharat dream, our institutions, researchers must take the responsibility to make them ready to contribute as the trained workforce to achieve the mission after us. Current skill development so far are strategized in a manner which induces lot of out-migration. But the transformation and sustainability we are envisaging, which requires cultivating local entrepreneurs for local requirement skills. Then, as the global future lies in clean green energy, skilling program should focus more on it so that clean and green energy are essential for the hinterland tribal population more than we people living in urban habitations. Then, out of the total population, 9% are tribals and mostly living in Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. These are the states. Now when we are talking about sustainable development, will our strategy of equal development is going to really give boost to their lives and livelihoods? So what is required is a equitable development strategy to really take the sustainable development forward. Another factor, a large segment of India's population or workforce are in informal sector, like domestic workers, drivers, sanitation workers. How are the sustainable development goal through our Viksit Bharat mission is really enabling them to join the entire development process. In the current social sector, our health expenditure stands at 1% of GDP and education sector is 2.5% of 2.5% investment against a target of 6% GDP. Somehow these have to be looked into essentially, because ultimately what we are going to create if sustainability is the future generation to take it forward. Health is a public good and 80% of our people live in rural tribal area. With health insurance program, how they are going to benefit unless and until the primary healthcare services at the ground level are capacitated with trained health personnel, paramedics to really boost their health and extend doorstep health delivery. Now, non-communicable diseases are growing. Suddenly, I do not know whether Abba, me, or my good friend S.K. Das will have a sudden heart attack here. So this is increasing because of our various food habit, our travel habit, all that is growing. How this is going to help a tribal with your insurance program in the hinterland? So this needs to be looked into. Government should prioritize ensuring healthcare infrastructure, equipment, professionals, and primary healthcare services rather than putting lot of money. Like few days, the government of India declaration, I am 27, now I am eligible for the 5 lakh scheme. 5 lakh health care insurance scheme. My good friend in a tribal village, a Koya, Kans or Gadba or Vanda, can he avail these services? Can he or she avail these services? And how? Then, coming to education, just compare the performance of the private costly schools and our general government schools. Parents, capable parents pay lots of money. The children enjoy various facilities like science laboratory, library, extracurricular abilities, all the technologies
Right,
are
sir.
here. Now, how our general school children are going to compete in the future is also a huge debatable area. Social initiative like housing, rural water supply, drinking water supply, sanitation facilities, clean and green energy are focused. How are we going to really educate these? Unless we have kind of real trained manpower from the same area or same community.
Right, sir.
Then, I think environment, regarding environment, I am not touching upon. The environment is himself here. But finally, I will conclude, without a healthy and educated population, who will drive the Viksit Bharat vision forwards towards accomplishment of sustainable development, which my great grandchildren can enjoy.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, Pasant Bhai. I think you have really raised a very, very important issue that without good governance, nothing can happen to start with. So,
I made a kindly request. Please look at all the sustainable development goals and Viksit Bharat from a governance lens.
yes.
That's
Exactly. So you've really made a very, very important point, because without effective governance, I am sure the various Viksit Bharat vision as well as the targets which has been fixed can never be. So you have also mentioned that with governance, there is a very, very important point to be looked at, is that we are not talking about equal distribution, but equitable development, and which includes that there has to be an inclusive approach where your informal workers, the marginalized, the small farmers, everybody is taken care of. So I think you have raised very, very important points, and also emphasized that without the proper capacity building, the governance will also not move forward. So the capacity building is also very, very important, and it has to be very, very people-centric and context-specific. Thank you so much for your points. We'll take the last one? Or pointer, I think the pointers are required. I'm Rebecca. May I have the pointer, please? Yeah. We will now have Miss Rebecca Crawley from the Thamaru Youth Indigenous Corporation, Australia. Look forward. Thank you, please.
While that's getting ready, I'd just like to thank everyone for hosting me here in your lovely country of India, the state of Odisha, and especially Centurion University, where I enjoy much hospitality here over the years and developed some very wonderful partnerships. From my accent, you can probably tell that I'm from Australia, and I hope that you can understand me, and I will speak slowly and clearly. We have a little bit of a different accent, as you can tell, in Australia. So, Viksit Bharat. This is a topic actually that I find really interesting, and I think a very wonderful challenge that India has set itself to be able to become a developed country by 2047. I think that coming from a developed country myself, the concept of what developed is something that we really need to look at. In India, it is in a really pivotal position to be able to define what that looks like. And I think that by focusing on youth, women, poor, and the farmers, they've set themselves a challenge, but also a really good way of looking at how to become developed. And as we said, 2047 is only 22 years. I think we talked about this morning that you need to put the foot on the accelerator to be able to get there in 22 years. But I think with a lot of these things, we need to hurry slowly and make sure that while we are hurrying along to get to where we need to make sure that we are bringing along the people that we need to bring along with us. In Australia, we have a saying that says, a little bit like we were talking about before, was nothing about us without us. And it's really important, I think, to make sure that when we were talking about the youth, women, the poor and the farmers, that unless they are involved in the decision making, unless they are involved in the governance, then that development won't happen. There we go. So, sorry, that's okay now? And I'd like to just talk about that in terms of development and what a developed country is. And most people in Australia don't understand our colonial background and the amount of disadvantage that comes from our Indigenous population. When I talk about that, nothing about us without us, and we're talking about partnerships here. And unless we actually have those partnerships, India will continue to be in a situation in which Australia is. Australia has 3.8% of Aboriginal people or Indigenous people nationally. In the state that I work in, which is the Northern Territory, it's 30.8%. And in the region and towns that I work in, it's 93%. So we're talking about an area that is not developed in terms of what it looks like. So this is the region. This is at the top part of Australia. So you can see the bit that's shaded in the darker colour there, and then the red dot right at the beginning that's right up the top of Australia. In terms of vegetation, it looks very much like Orissa. Very, very similar vegetation and landscapes. It's a coastal area. That's a bird's eye view. Lots of river systems, quite similar, I think, in the area that we're in right now. And this is the way that they live. So this is a developed country of Australia. They earn less than 200 Australian dollars, about 200 Australian dollars a week, which is what they get from Social Security. And the only place that they can buy food, milk, a litre of milk would cost about $10. So you can see how they don't have access to nutrition and food. And this is a sort of a typical home would look like this. So there'll be really nowhere to do the cooking, nowhere to be sleeping. They'll be sleeping on the floors. Access to education is difficult. Most of them don't see any point in education. So they don't have the agency that gives them the hope that education will actually make their lives better for them. At the moment, there's about 458 students at the school. It's a primary and secondary school there, and there's only an attendance rate of only 27%. So more than 70% of the students that should be at school in that community are not attending school. And that's not because they don't necessarily want a better lives for themselves. They just don't see the purpose of it. And the education system isn't set up so that they can access it. It's in English. Their language is not English. And it's run by a Catholic mission with a lot of Catholic values which go in contrast to what their cultural needs are. So when we talk about developed, you can see that unless we really do tackle the poor, the young people, the women, and the farmers, then we're not going to actually be developed. We can have our shiny cities and the urbanisation, but unless we are really focusing on the rural, regional and remote areas, we won't really be developed. And it needs to be a whole systems approach. When we talked about the Sustainable Development Goals, if we just picked out a few of them and focused on those, we still wouldn't be in a better position. All of the Sustainable Development Goals need to be looked at together in a systems approach. So we need to step away from these silos. And I think that research is wonderful, but it needs places like this where people can come together to break those silos apart. And that's one of the things that we are doing with our organisation. We have young people that come from this community where less than 70% are attending high school, so they're not getting any primary or secondary education, but they're coming here to Centurion University and getting skills education. We've had 4 cohorts come through here. This is one group that's graduated. They studied textiles and apparel, and another group that had just arrived. And you can see some of their features don't look too much different to some of the tribal Indians here in Odisha as well. Another group was learnt, so we've had textiles and apparel skills, we've had EV and automotive skills, and our last group has just completed some skills in plumbing. All skills that they can then take back to their community, to their area, and actually improve the livelihoods of their families. So I think when we are looking at a way forward, when we're looking at sustainable development and way forward, it's really important to also look back, because a lot of these Indigenous communities, they've lived decades, thousands of years of circular economies. They work sustainably, they listen to the land, they work within the planetary boundaries that we're all pushing so far out now that we're looking at our own extinction. So part of this is that they come here to learn skills, but they also share their knowledges. So it's two-way learning. We learn from each other. We learn how we can survive in this world that is the boundaries that we are breaking at the moment. So we hope that we will be able to scale this to have more First Nations and Aboriginal people coming from Australia and keeping that cultural sharing alive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for keeping on time also. Just 2 points which she brought up, which were very, very important. One was that for, while reiterating that equitable development is must, she also focused and was emphasizing that we need to have people-centric but at the local context, which is so, so important. And without an integrated approach, even for the research, we will not be able to make forward, because the policies have to have that, evidence base, which would help them to have integrated policies. And finally, she ended with saying that, indigenous knowledge is also important because they have survived for such a long. So capturing that is also one thing. May I now request Venkat to kindly speak about this particular topic, and please. Venkat Shivanand, just for a reminder, is MD GTDIS Private Limited India.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Hope I'm audible. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Venkat, Managing Director of GTDIS. This company is basically a certified fintech company, which is also into agriculture, and we are doing multiple projects involving drones across different parts of India. So I'll discuss some of our initiatives which are contributing towards SDGs 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. To start with, we basically work with Government of India very closely. So we implement Government of India's flagship program on financial inclusion, which is to provide doorstep banking services across India. So as a part of this initiative, we work with 8 public sector banks and a few Grameen banks. The big banks, SBI, Canara Bank, Union Bank of India, we work with all these banks across 10 states of India. So for these banks, we have deployed more than 5,000 agents across India, and 70% of them are women agents. So through these agents, we facilitate financial inclusion, we drive Government of India's agenda. So in the last 10 years, we opened close to 2 crore, 20 million no-frills accounts, predominantly in the villages. Also, to promote entrepreneurship, we have disbursed Mudra loans to around 1.2 lakh beneficiaries. We have disbursed loans worth 500 crore. Also, we have our own proprietary fintech solution, a fintech app called Insta Money. Through this app, every month we perform we facilitate 1.5 million banking transactions, and we do a business worth 2,000 crores every month for our partner banks. Also, if you look at banking sector per se in our country, the sector is grappling with two challenges. The first being high non-performing assets, the second being high operational expenses. So our endeavor is to reduce, to address both these challenges through our intervention. So in the last 10 years, based on the significant strides we made in financial inclusion, now Niti Aayog is asking all the banks, all the PSU banks to shut down 50% of their branches, ATMs, and to switch over to the branchless banking, which we are implementing across villages in India. Now I'll talk about our other initiatives involving drones. Well, we got into drones 2 years ago. Our university, our School of Agriculture does a lot of work in this area, and based on the learnings, we thought this is the right area to focus on. So, as per ICAR report, India is losing 25 to 30% of its total output every year to pests, to insects. Also, millions of farmers in our country, while administering agrochemicals, fertilizers, they are falling sick, and thousands are dying. Further, there is a huge shortage of labor across the country who are willing to offer spraying services, be it growth promoters, fertilizers, agrochemicals. So we felt that drones can bring in a significant change in this area. See, if you look at the spraying methods which are being adopted in our country, conventionally, if you want to spray a 1 acre area, be it agrochemical or fertilizer, it takes 4 to 5 hours. Whereas with drone, we can do it in 5 to 6 minutes. Also, if you look at water consumption, so with drones, we are saving almost 95%, we are using 95% less water. So hence we decided that this sector has a bright future, and we got into this 2 years ago. So in the last 2 years, we have administered agrochemicals, fertilizers across 2 lakh acres in 8 states of India. So what we are doing is we are basically opening drone clusters, and in each drone cluster we deploy 4 to 5 drones, 4 to 5 certified drone pilots, and then we are offering drone spraying services. The rental we charge per acre rental is almost 50% less than the conventional prices. So the farmers are coming forward and availing these services. Now the other issue, very, very important issue, in our country there are close to 25 lakh water bodies. All these water bodies are less than, most of them are less than 10 acres. So out of these 25 lakh water bodies, 11 lakh water bodies belongs to government, central government and state governments. So there are a lot of encroachments on these water bodies, and these water bodies are being used from generations for cultivation, for drinking, and to cultivate fish. But in the last 5 decades, so if you study the quality of these water bodies, the water holding capacity decreased significantly. There is a lot of silt in the water bodies. There are a lot of encroachments which happened over a period of years. So we are working with Government of Odisha very closely. So we are doing a drone survey, bathymetric survey of these water bodies. Okay. And we are providing DPRs to the government, and we are helping government remove encroachments, okay, remove silt, increase water holding capacity. So So we have done a lot of work for government of Orissa. Now, other important issue which is actually which is a very nagging issue is now land allocation. See, if you look from generations, the land extent is getting the agriculture lands. Okay, the land size is shrinking. Because the land is being distributed with each passing generation, the land has to be distributed to the in the family. So the size is shrinking. Now 25% of all the disputes which are languishing in the courts, they are pertaining to land disputes. So now we are working with government of Orissa, government of Andhra, government of UP to do survey of agriculture lands. So post survey, government is issuing patta copies to the farmers, and this initiative is of course reducing the load on judiciary. See, this initiative will benefit which we call it multispectral drone imaging. It will benefit farmers significantly. We recently got a mandate, huge mandate from government of Maharashtra. Here we basically capture aerial images of the crop, and we do a thorough study of abiotic stress. So based on the images we capture, we'll give real-time inputs to the farmers on issues like pest load, NPK deficiency, water deficiency, yield estimation. And based on our reports, farmers can take remedial measures, and they can earn more income. Now, this is another project which we recently started in
Can we
Andhra, and we
conclude,
hope
please?
to also get a mandate from government of Orissa. Now, survey of transmission lines. So in India, the power transmission losses are as high as 40%. Now we are doing drone survey of transmission lines, both RGB survey, thermal survey, and we are helping power distribution companies identify the hotspots, arrest transmission losses. So,
Can you conclude, please?
yeah, so I once again thank the management for giving this opportunity, and we are doing our bit to contribute towards social development goals, and we are even planning to start a company to manufacture agriculture spraying drones to benefit farmers at large. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Venkat. I think one of the main points highlighted by you is the use of technology, and to take up to ensure, which was also in the in the inaugural session, really mentioned how it can be used. So that's very, very important. Now may I request Professor Santosh Das to kindly provide his inputs.
Good afternoon. Respected chair of the session, panelists, and the dignitaries present in this session, and participants, those intend to do something or contribute something for the Viksit Bharat or 5 trillion transaction in future. Now question comes, it's very, a nice time to think of, in this session actually, in my discussion, I will be highlighting a little. So for no poverty, zero hunger, again, good health and wellness, and the climate action. So all will be contributing a little at least from the subject, that is sustainable agriculture in a different way, so to say medicinal and aromatic plants. Of course, it is, this thing organic. We cannot call it organic without certification, but that can be a natural farming product. So before 90s, actually, there are very limited medicines are there, which are being prepared. People used to practice the same. But after that, now after corona and all, now pharmaceuticals, all nutraceuticals, the lifestyle products, all everything from these plants only. The beauty is the same is the products are always organic. Products are always with the natural farming by default, maybe from the forest, may cultivated. Unless and until we test it, without any toxin, that cannot be marketed. Of course, in domestic and outside also, global. So now the question comes, a demand has gone up fourfold, more than that. Now, domestically, in domestic market and in global market, it is much more because now the supplements or the medicines like or the lifestyle products for the good centric, for stress centric, for other centric are out of these materials only. Because I have seen it throughout India, in the same time in Orissa, a lot many things is being done in the Centurion University has taken a very good initiative in this also. Today I saw the students, they have made very good oil out of this thing, tulsi, Osimum sanctum. It is costing not less than 8 to 10,000 in the market per kg. 600 kgs of tulsi leaves extract 1 kg of oil, which is very easy to grow. In 90 days that can be grown and can be done. So now, so far the question of 5 trillion is coming. Positively, one shall have to have a motivation in him, with him first. Maybe a student, may a technocrat, may a professional, may the production units. Anybody, they shall have to have the motivation because everybody will be thinking that what I will get out of this only. So now, how to go ahead? Small suggestion or here, the discussion, point of discussion, rather thought for the, this thing, mind. One is home herbal garden. Having 10, 15, 10, 20, mainly 10, 12 plants in the garden, which will address and addressing rather, it is started, the movement has already started. Government of India has got that, Ministry of Ayush has got that provision also. They have got the guideline, they are supporting. That is nothing but, headache to footache. The plants which actually works, because suppose someone is, suffering from headache. And ghee quarry, that guarpata or, ghee quarry, which is known as aloe barbadensis. Because aloe is there, putting in the forehead or in a head, so it will cool down. So, headache is gone. So that's, at least some remedies, common remedies for the headache and to up to footache. Then take it, for the constipation, continuous constipation. Then there will be an infection in the colon, known as now, colitis. So it needs operation. So it will cost per patient not less than 50 to 60,000. But if a plant is there in his backyard, known as Sana, Cassia angustifolia, which has got senoside, A and B, which is actually a laxative, a purgative. In mild dose, that can work as a laxative. So, these are the plants like Costa speciosa. Centurion University has got a very good herbal garden and some other plants also here. And institutional gardens which already started here and common, this thing, community herbal garden. These are the, socializing the plants with the social media and socializing the plants, knowing the students will get the first and information out of this. Then second thing is commercial cultivation of these things in monocrop, in multi-tier, multi-tier crop, top canopy, ground, middle canopy, ground canopy. And the harvest will start in 90 days only, 60 to 90 days. In a cluster basis, massive cultivation, value addition, quality control, packaging, then marketing, demand is there. And we shall have to go from the market to the field from the market only. Unless and until we produce for the market, we cannot sell. Important is, if you are producing for the market, then selling is not an issue. So in the sometimes some other infrastructure also needed, like testing laboratory, as we have got it here. Testing laboratory, quality control, like high pressure liquid chromatography or, gas chromatography. Because nowadays actually when we are sending to outside, mainly, USA or Europe, or to the, mainly, so C14 test is needed. We don't have a C14 test here in India. Only one university, Mangalore, has got the same, charging 23,000 rupees per sample. C14, carbon 14 test, but no buyer is, interested to take the materials being seen this test report. So they depend upon a laboratory in Georgia, which is Ben Lab. So they charge around 38,000 per sample and transport again from sending the same is costing around 5 to 6,000 in international post office. So this type of some infrastructure is needed and some common facility center. Common facility centers means that's enough for hydrodistillation, steam distillation, low cost. And hydro steam pressure distillation, solvent plant, and as Centurion has got, one supercritical extraction unit. This is the only supercritical extraction or CO2 unit in the state which is operational. And just because we have all these things, these are the things has been documented. Around 33 products are being cultivated in the field with value addition, with production, value addition, and marketing with quality control. Because in which we have got the monopoly. India has got the monopoly in Catharanthus alba for cancer. Which are the medicines, mainly, for chemotherapy and all, like, vindolim, vimproline, vimblastine, vincristine sulfate. The same only species in the world is only Catharanthus alba, Sadabahaar we call it. Only Madagascar, a small island, Madagascar and India is the source. So India is suffering for last 60 years to catering to the world. So we have got the, monopoly in this, can work out for the 5 trillion thing. Then, I can just, give some example, like the curry leaf, 45 days crop, 45 days harvesting, hardly 60 days harvesting, curry leaf is around 8,000 for hair oil and all. Then, this thing, Artemisia pallens, which is around 40,000 per kg is, 90 days crop only. Nagarmutha, 7 months crop, cost around 23,000. It is available plentifully in the state, in country also, in India, lot many, south, eastern, everywhere. Taman oil in the coastal, it is full. Price is, around 8,000. Production rate is hardly 300. 300 to 8,000. That's a huge difference. Damask rose, trial here, which is costing around not less than, anybody can see in Google also, not less than 11 lakhs, if it is a genuine product. Like this, jasmine also, same, around 10 lakhs. So these are the issues. In the sometimes one issue is there for the marketing. That is, only 4 buyers are there. One is trader, second is exporter, third is, this thing, phytochemical industries, fourth is, again, pharmacies. Pharmacies, they cannot, finish. They cannot have the tie-up with the farmer. So some arrangement should be done on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sorry to be spoiled sport, but I think we have, as such, also overshot by 15 minutes. So, but thank you so much for, enlightening us about the importance of the medicinal plants and its market value. When we look at the points which he mentioned was, we have to create, for all these, we have to create a very, very perfect systems from farm to the market. And for that, you really require proper inputs, not only at the farm level, but also at the market level. Unless and until you have the right mechanisms, infrastructures, we will not be able to progress despite having a lot, monopoly on it also. I would just like to conclude by mentioning few points, bringing everything together. Just give me a second. Yeah. So, if we want to have a Viksit Bharat and we want to move forward, the first is that the economic growth has to be in terms of the environmental balance. We talked about the green economy. We also talked about the circular economy. So both needs to be there. The second point which was emphasized was the inclusive development. To eradicate poverty, we require a very, very inclusive development. And that means that we need to ensure all the marginalized communities have access to education, healthcare, and employment opportunities. And gender equity, not equality, but equity needs to be focused. The third point which came up from all the presenters were that technological innovations which are there, which may be within, very, very small rooms or universities needs to be brought to the notice of all the common man per se. And that's where the digital India and the smart cities, because it's not just the rural but also the urban cities which needs a lot of technology which would help us in improving the efficiency of our natural resources and the utilization of the natural resources and improve public services to ensure better life. If we do not do that, the pressure on the rural community will continue. And when we talk about agriculture, the organic farming which was mentioned along with the water management is a very important. The underlying issue was on education and awareness for every sections of life, the governance and the policy, which includes regulatory public-private partnership needs to be thought of, and partnership is not just about community and the agency working, but it is also about government, also the international collaborations which was mentioned. It's very, very important, which would help us to ensure that we have sustainable urbanization and our health and well-being is maintained. So when we move towards a Viksit Bharat, we require a holistic approach that balances both economic growth with environmental sustainability and social inclusion. By adopting and implementing these strategies mentioned, some of the strategies mentioned by our panel members would ensure that we have a sustainable and prosperous future, and the Viksit Bharat could be a shining example for the rest of the world. Thank you very much, and I conclude the panel discussion here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. I would like to request Professor Supriya Patnaik, Vice Chancellor, Centurion University, to felicitate all the panel members, to begin with our chairperson, Ms. Ava Mishra. Moving forward with Ms. Colley. Next, I would like to call upon Mr. Venkat Sivanand. Next, I would like to call upon Mr. Basant Mahanti. And now, I would like to call upon Professor Santosh Kumar Das. Thank you, madam. Now, we are going to have a photo session and capture this moment. I request all the dignitaries, guests, speakers, everyone to kindly join us on stage along with the panel members. Faculty members are also requested to please join.